Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me, David.
It has been a difficult several months for this country, and particularly a very painful last couple weeks. As a CEO, how are you addressing your employees, your customers in these tumultuous times? What are you saying to them right now?
Yeah, actually, I'm saying a lot, David. It's kind of unusual. In my role, you don't expect to be communicating with your employees on almost a daily or weekly basis, but that's really kind of the position I've been in. And I send a video out every week to the employees. I have an all hands through Zoom every couple of weeks. Engage with employees, and basically what I'm telling them is that it's okay to be stressed out. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel grief. It's okay to know what to say in a particular situation. It's also okay that you're not 100%. It's okay to not be okay. And that message, I think, is really important for the employees to hear, because there's this cascading tension that builds up in the organization where people think that, I have to perform, I have to be able to connect with everybody at the right time in the right place. But meanwhile, my kids are at home, there's protests, there's insecurity, there's uncertainty, there's discomfort with maybe my Black colleagues. I don't know how to address them or engage with them. All of this is meshed in with the pandemic and everything that's going on. And my message has been, come on, open up. We're all in each other's living rooms right now, literally. All right. And I think it's a time for employees to hear that it's okay, that you're not okay, that perfect is impossible, and that, you can engage with the people differently and in different ways, and just accept that everybody's not going to be in the best of places.
Yeah. I've heard this from so many CEOs I'm talking to these days, that the mantra seems to be over communication, that there is, again, sort of an unprecedented need to hear from leaders in organizations, and an unprecedented willingness at some levels to be vulnerable, to be really candid about how one's doing, not only at work, but at home. And it makes me wonder, to what extent do you believe there will be lasting changes as a result of everything we're going through right now, especially when it comes to company culture? How do you believe that your company might change in the way employees work with one another, in the way that you work as an organization, even the degree to which you have offices and where you might have employees situated throughout the country, how and where you even hire people?
So I'm incredibly hopeful that some of these changes are going to persist. I mean, this whole notion of being vulnerable and having the discussion and engaging is something that we've been trying to do at the company for a while. Autodesk grew up in kind of the classic kind of non-confrontational, always be nice, but kind of avoid the difficult conversation type of model that a lot of large companies during our era grew up into. And what we've been trying to do is evolve the company to, look, it's okay to be direct. It's okay to lean in the conversation. Matter of fact, it's healthier to be direct than to say it outside the room, behind somebody's back, or behind an organization's back. And what we're seeing culturally, literally, and I don't know if it's something to do with the kind of safety of Zoom and the fact there's a screen between you and people are leaning into tough conversations faster, and they're actually making decisions faster in a time where you'd think they weren't, because they can't get in the same room and look at each other. Gosh, I want to hold on to every ounce of that as we head out of this, and hope that people continue to just tell it like it is, speak their minds, get it out on the table quickly, because you know what, you don't have time for anything else. So that's one thing I'm hoping we hold on to. I'm not going to be one of these predictors where everything on the other side is different, the world's going to be completely different. I don't know, but I do know that we're going to have more employees working remotely. There's going to be more flexibility. We were in the middle of revamping our benefits program, and just during all of this, through this whole cycle, we're going, maybe those benefits that we were thinking of adding to the palette aren't the right ones. Maybe we need to add benefits around flexibility and adaptability and office space and things associated with that. So we're definitely going to have a different working environment. And we already were looking at places we were hiring differently. We were looking at different types of urban centers, different cost structures. One of the things we just recently did, because we were really trying to engage more deeply with the historically Black universities on the East Coast, especially in the Southeast, we opened an office in Atlanta. And I could see us doing more of these kind of hubs that represent some of our goals with regards to hiring, and also allow us to, not tell people, hey, you're perfect for the job. Can you move to San Francisco or Boston? Because you know what? Guess what? Not everybody wants to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's going to be fascinating to see how all this plays out. And I applaud you for welcoming that frankness, that culture of accountability and vulnerability. It's going to be interesting to see how it all develops. Tell us how Autodesk has been affected by the pandemic over the last several months. As a software company, we have to believe that the impacts haven't been quite as extreme as, say, on a manufacturer, for example. And yet I'm sure you have had disruptions to the workplace. You've mentioned that many people are working remote. How have you been faring during this? And what responsibility do you feel you have to your customers and to your employees? Again, as you acknowledge, many of them have seen their lives disrupted in all sorts of other meaningful ways, even as they work remotely.
Yeah, so first off, during this, we are a software company, which puts us in a somewhat fortunate category. We don't have a factory, we don't run a factory, we don't have retail stores, we don't run retail stores. So we were able to very rapidly, actually before the counties and the local government said, send your people home, we send people home. And we were able to respond and adapt to that. We were able to deliver the infrastructure. But I just to make sure that people understand what some of these things reveal, there's even a digital divide inside of wealthy, high-tech companies in the Bay Area. Not every employee had all the infrastructure they needed to successfully work from home. Not every employee had a private room where they could go and sit, like I have right here, where I'm sitting by myself, somewhat isolated, right? And we had to deal with some of these issues and get some of these things corrected relatively quickly. And yes, we were able to. And as a result, productivity in the company didn't really take much of a hit. But there's more to life than productivity, right? Some people felt like they were being more productive in this environment. Everybody was getting their work done, but they really weren't being more productive. They were actually just squeezing everything in, working more, time slicing in the needs of their children. We have 25% of our employees with children at home that we had to deal with. I'm one of them. I have a second grader and a ninth grader at home. And I'll tell you, it's really challenging. So we had to adapt to these things, and we had to take some responsibility to help our employees deal with this. We gave extra holidays. We encouraged people to take distress leave, or what we call a personal, I forget, it's called a personal leave. It's like a distress leave that allows them to deal with difficult situations at home. And, there were a lot of challenges, but generally speaking, we've done incredibly well, and we're really fortunate. But, there's still a lot to worry about. And one of the things as a corporate leader that I do worry about is we're executing on plans that we set up, probably 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. But what about the next 12 to 18 month plans? We're now trying to teach ourselves how to have strategic conversations, long-term conversations, brainstorming conversations in this distributed mode. And I'll tell you, those muscles are not built even in this software company. People really want to get in front of the whiteboard, and you can't do that. So we're trying to create virtual ways so that we don't end up in a situation that if we're all back at home in the fall because the governments can't quite get their act together in terms of how to test, trace, and isolate people, then we've got to be able to finish our strategic planning cycle remotely as well. And that's new muscle, even for a tech company.
I wonder though, if you could think a bit more broadly about the role of companies in thorny social issues like this. For a long time, companies largely just stayed on the sidelines, especially with anything like race and racism, which are so difficult, as you just acknowledged.
One, I think the issues are very raw, David. And I hate to say this, all right, and I don't want to get into the domain of condemning one person or the other, but there's such a lack of responsive government in this country right now. And by the way, I'm holding a lot of government accountable for this, the federal government in particular, but state and local governments have a lot to say here as well. People are looking for voices. Now, by the way, I am not the first person. You're not going to hear me advocate that corporations should change the world, because be careful what you wish for. that's a particular brand of dystopia that we may not want to walk into. What we need is our governments to change our worlds. And we need a responsive government that responds to what's happening in the world in a way that protects the populace and moves society forward. And I do think one role that corporations can have is demanding that we can expect from our leaders at all levels of government, all the way from the top parts of the federal government, all the way down to the lowest levels of city government, that they are responsive to what's going on and they have plans and they have actions that work and are meaningful.
Listen, let's also talk about jobs and the future, of course. What are you hearing? What are you seeing from your customers, from your employees, about what this next phase of our economic recovery is going to look like? We're not asking you to call the job numbers for the next week or the next month, but broadly, what are you seeing from the people you work with that can inform us about how this economy is going to rebound? And critically, what are you doing and what are your customers doing to try to get people back to work? We're still facing this record unemployment. What are the steps you and those you work with taking to get people, to give them the new skills that they're going to need to succeed in whatever economy looks like after this?
Yeah, so we're in one of these, again, this is where we're kind of in an enviable position. We've been pushing a highly digital agenda into our end markets for some time. You know, we deal with end markets in the architectural, engineering, and civil space, in the product design and engineering space. These are generally sectors that change very slowly and tend to be very conservative. But one of the sectors that really needed to change was the architectural, engineering, construction segment. It's really back in the dark ages. And one of the things you're seeing right now is a willingness to embrace digital tools in a way that is probably going to accelerate out on the other side of this. And by the way, that's nothing but a good thing right now, because construction sites are shut down right now. They're going to probably open up with different rules and different types of behaviors. They're going to open up in shifts. They need digital tools to become more efficient, and they need to be able to run digital processes end to end in order to keep maintaining a level of resiliency through other types of shocks. So one of the things we're doing is we're doing what we do as a software company. We're trying to help our customers get more digital for the next shock and actually design their companies for resiliency, and also help their customers design and build more resilient infrastructure, more resilient buildings, more resilient products. This is part of where our hearts are. We really do believe that the decisions our customers make affect the quality of life across the world, from everything from the climate impacts all the way through to equity impacts. So we want to help them be more digital. We want to help them get back to work. And we are one of these optimists, where we believe that the more we digitize these processes, the more people we bring into the world of design and making. Design and making is one of these things, especially in the manufacturing segment, where it's really resource intensive. But this world now, we've actually seen a shock where supply chains are getting inverted, and we're going to be going global, where you're going to have global businesses but local supply chains, and you're going to be delivering things locally. And what that means is, if you get this right, if you automate this correctly, more people are going to be able to engage in more sustainable ways, which is a whole nother conversation, to participate in building things for people. And that is a world that we want to be part of. And we really are the optimists. We believe everything we say here, that once we automate these processes, they're going to be better for the world, better for employees, better for people.